Look, I have a view. You should be aware of your competition, learn what they're doing really well, learn how perhaps you can neutralise some of their competitive advantages over you. But a lot of people get really hung up on the competition rather than really worrying about their employees and their customers and making sure they're positioning themselves the best they can be so their customers are welded on.
Do you want to earn more? Work less and enjoy what you do each day. It's no secret, it can be done. This podcast with Dr. T will not only educate and inspire you, it will also teach you how to do more and be more with the time you already have. It will be like a shot of adrenaline straight into the heart of your business. Here is your host, Tyson Franklin.
Hi, I'm Tyson Franklin, and welcome to this week's episode of It's No Secret with Dr. T. Now, today I have a very special guest. He's a TV star. Well, he wouldn't class himself as a TV star, but he is on the Australian Shark Tank, and he's always referred to as the newest shark, but he's been on there for a couple of years now, so I don't think he's new anymore. Glen Richards, how are you doing today?
Thank you, Tyson. Going very well, and appreciate the invite to be on your podcast.
I think I've been wanting to get you on here. I've been wanting to get you on here for a while, but I saw you speak down in Brisbane at an event that we're both speaking at, and you told your story about going through vet school, meeting a whole pile of crazy Russians on a train, setting up a business plan, and implementing that business plan so many years later, and that was the basis of a lot of your success with Greencross Vets, the pet barn, listing on the stock exchange. That story blew me away, and I wanted to sort of touch on that a little bit today.
Happy to, mate. Happy to. So just to recap, my father said, "Look, I'm interested in backing you." I'd been in London, made a phone call to a vet practice in Townsville, and next thing I'd a handshake deal to buy a vet practice from halfway around the world in Townsville. Got off the phone, and the only place you're going to get funding is the Bank of Dad. So rang my father in Western Queensland and had a quick conversation over one of those party lines, those old wind-up telephones. And Dad just said, "Look, interested in backing you, but I need you to tell me what you're up to. Can you put a bit of a plan together?" I said,
what was your father's background?
So a week later. So he was from Tasmania as a young guy. At 18, decided to go north to visit his great-great-uncle. His great-great-uncle actually happened to be a very, very famous World War One and World War II hero, a fellow called Harry Murray, Colonel Harry Murray. So Harry was the most decorated soldier in the British Empire after First World War, won the VC and a whole bunch of other medals. But a bit of a hero to my dad, so he went up. He said to Dad, "Come up and work as a jackaroo." So at 18, Dad went up to North Queensland, to Western Queensland, and worked as a jackaroo for a fair while, and then got a bit of support from another old friend up in Richmond, and bought his first property when he was about 25, 26 years of age. And when we're talking properties, we're talking a farm about a 30,000 acre farm. So
okay,
small.
Big one. Yeah,
they're not small. You need a reasonable amount of land to be commercial, and so he, been basically a small business owner or a business owner all his life, and so very practical and a good person to have as a mentor in my life.
So you grew up on the land. You're a bit of a bushie.
Absolutely. So grew up. Still have memories as a 3 and 4 year old tailing out sheep in the middle of droughts and sitting on the back end of an old horse, and my job was to sit on the bottom end and just hang on the back, and you'd have this trail of dust over you all day as a kid, and just keep the sheep moving forward. Spent a long time on the land during my university career.
And that's probably what makes you so down to earth as well, because I assume no matter what level of success you were ever going to have, if you started to be a bit of an upstart, your father probably would have just clipped you back across the back of the head.
Well, I have a pretty strong view, Tyson. I think there's no room for arrogance in life or in business, and I think that grounding of growing up where you always are concerned that factor X is coming along. You're waiting for rain, or you're hoping that you're going to get a good pasture for your stock.
Yeah.
You're hoping commodity prices are going to be useful, so you always are humble. And I think that grounding of growing up in a Western Queensland lifestyle does set you up well for life. It's no different from golf. As soon as you think you're good at golf, it drops you on your ass and you blow up. And business is like that, life is like that. And probably my deep respect for anyone who is in business it comes from the fact that life is never that easy and business is never that easy. And I think that you're probably right. It comes from that common sense background of growing up in the bush.
Okay, so we go back a step, because I did take us off on a bit of a detour there. I told you this would happen. So your father agreed to back you to buy this vet clinic.
Yeah, so I was heading back to Australia after 2 years in London, and decided to go via the long way and take the train home. So I jumped on a train in Moscow on the Trans Siberian Express, and on that train it was full of Ukrainian traders. So they would go from Ukraine and Russia down to China, go to the markets and buy up a whole bunch of product, come back and sell it. And that trip would take them nearly 3 weeks round trip. Or they'd 3 weeks to go down and come back, and then they'd sell the produce, whether it was suits, clothing, blankets, whatever. But they generally doubled their money every time they did a trip. So therefore they'd go around in their community and their suburb and race some dough. That would back them. They'd go down to Beijing, and away they go. So this train was full of Ukrainian traders. And, they were pretty basic people. They were tough guys. Most of them had fought in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
When USSR had sat in Afghanistan, so they were tough guys. So anyway, they suggested very strongly that I should drink with them. So we had a week of drinking vodka on the Trans Siberian Express. But part of what I was doing on the Trans Siberian Express was writing a business plan, and it was interesting. So the business plan started out where we'd buy this vet practice in Townsville, and by the time we got to Beijing and a lot of vodka later, the plan had morphed into a plan to develop a network of veterinary hospitals across Australia. So the vodka helps in spans your thinking and lifts your line of sight. I think it does, mate.
I really think some of my best ideas have come about after 6 Coronas. After 12 Coronas, some of the worst ideas I've ever had in my life have happened. But after about 6, your mind can sometimes just it relaxes. And especially if you're with a group of people who are like-minded, success-orientated. If you're all having a couple of casual drinks and you're talking about business, it's amazing what can come out.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think it's relaxes you enough to open up, but don't have enough to destroy the brain cells and cramp your style.
So the business plan that they gave you, you didn't, like, from what I remember from your talk, you didn't implement it straight away, did you? You just tucked it away?
Exactly. So I got back, wrote my business plan, got back to Australia, convinced my father to guarantee my loans and also lend me some money, and started with a large hospital, or a decent sized hospital in Townsville with a little branch practice. And the essence of that plan went into my first group of practices in Townsville. So it grew from pretty much 1.5 practices into 5 practices and about 60 staff over a period of about 6 or 7 years.
Okay, that's good. That's good steady growth.
Then it was good growth for really on a wing and a prayer, and really pushing my cash and cash flow and pushing the banks a bit to support my expansion plans, and then linked up with some guys from around Australia, guys and girls in a what we call an alliance. So we set up National Veterinary Alliance, and we'd meet every 3 months. We'd share some ideas. There's really just an intellectual property brainstorming, swapping ideas on how.
Was it like a mastermind group?
I'd say that was probably a good illustration, a mastermind group that simply, there's no geographic competition. We'd quite happily put an agenda together around stuff that was bothering us as multi-site veterinary practice owners. We're all fairly entrepreneurial group out of the veterinary industry, and simply we would brainstorm those ideas. Someone would present on their unique problem or their problem to them, and then we'd all be sort of massaging it. We produced a lot of good material through that time and shared it with each other. And then a little breakaway group out of Queensland, John Odler, Keith Knight and myself, then set up a co-op. And the co-op was really partly a buying group, partly a marketing group. And we put my brand out of Townsville across a group of practices in Brisbane and Townsville. So we end up with about 17 practices operating under the Greencross brand. We employed a marketing person. We employed a finance person to do our bookkeeping and some benchmarking. And then we did some seriously good negotiation with some of the larger suppliers to improve our buying power.
So the other two guys that were in the other two guys in the co-op, they were vets as well, and they owned the other practices. So you all agreed to come up and use the same business name. Was there any argument over who had the better name?
Well, mine was pretty much a neutral, being Greencross, and very strong in the Townsville market. Yeah. Where the other guys pretty much locality-based name.
Yes, okay.
So I'd already moved to putting a grouping name across my 5 practices, and there were 2 guys out of Brisbane. They had 6 practices, and then there were 3 or 4 other good practices. Some of the icons of the Queensland veterinary community: Tony Philander, Bob Menruff, Barry McDonald. These guys were icons when I was a young vet, and ended up working in a co-op with them, which was tremendous. And,
that's good.
But quite simply, they went, you've got the most coherent conversation happening in the marketplace with the brand Greencross. Let's all use that. And I went, yeah, that's fine, no problem. Let's use that. So next thing, we've got 17 practices under the Greencross name, and benchmarking and coaching, or benchmarking our practices, so we knew where we're doing well or not against each other. Buying groups, a little bit of improvement in margin in our practices, and had a lot of fun together. It was pretty innocent times, and had a lot of fun. And next thing, a couple of guys turned up from the Gold Coast wearing white shoes. The boys were good.
That's what they do.
They do. Look, and they were a good catalyst to move us from co-op to corporate. So they had optioned up about 15 practices under option to buy, subject to raising some money.
Yeah.
We had a conversation that ran for about a year, and we decided to join the agendas. We rolled our practices in. They then rolled these optioned up practices into the group, and we came together. In one day, we had 32 practices, about 15 different entities that had to agree to sell the practices into a combined group and move to a corporate entity. And we had to simultaneously, contemporaneously settle the whole group. If anyone played up, was going to blow the whole thing up. So we managed to pull it all together. We had the banks backing us, and we had some brokers on to raise some dough to settle the 15 practices these boys had optioned up. The rest of us rolled our stuff in, or our practices in. And next thing, 2007 June, we had 32 practices. We listed on the Australian Stock Exchange, and next thing, everyone else stepped back and left me standing forward, and I became the managing director of the first publicly listed veterinary group in Australia. And
so it sounds like everyone was willing to put their egos aside, which seemed to be a good thing.
Very much so, Tyson. There's so much power in collaboration when ego's out of the room, and you're simply contributing for the sake of contributing and wanting things to be better. That is incredibly powerful, and and also a deep respect that everyone's opinions count.
Yeah.
So everyone was putting ideas forward, and then someone has to execute. So you have to pull those ideas and then execute. And I guess that was me as managing director. Taking some of these wonderful old founders and with a lot of energy and passion. John and Keith and myself, in the early days, I think we did every single job in the company just to be driving this business. Because when we listed, we really had no corporate backhand. We slammed together 32 practices overnight.
Yeah.
Worst way you can ever do a consolidation play, slapped it together. We employed a CFO who instantly went at war to all of us because we looked like amateurs.
You have to do it. If you had sat back and just waited to go, oh, when we actually know how everything works in the corporate world, then we'll list. If you waited till then, you'd still be waiting.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of the personalities in our foundation group was high detail, wanted everything to be perfect. And sometimes if 60% of you're there and it says to do this at 60%, why wait till you're at 99.9% to get all the facts? So some of these things you just have to get on and have a crack. I felt quite strongly that it was a great opportunity to pursue. I put everything on the line, house through to all my practices, everything was in. And I guess I never sat back to think that we could fail. I just knew it would succeed. And there was enough energy and passion and focus. And probably what we were was a bit naive and raw on a lot of our capability around supporting practice. And that's something we had to develop after we listed. And that makes you a bit vulnerable. That, the first year we beat our prospectus by 37%, which was not a bad outcome for a bunch of amateurs.
Yeah.
Second year we rolled into the global financial crisis. Our share price went from $2 back to 50 cents. And it actually gave us the opportunity. The investment community bailed out of microcap stocks, and it gave us the opportunity then to pull back and put some time into the corporate support that we needed to support our frontline clinics better.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of the fact that you've got to deliver on promises, and we'd hoped that we'd have a good education platform. We hoped that we'd have better HR support. We hoped that we'd have a better marketing capability. We had none of that when we smashed it all together. But after 2 years, we brought some good people into our team and recognised that couldn't be good at everything. As vets, and probably similar to podiatrists, you think you know everything. In actual fact, when you realise you don't, and you realise that you need help in people's areas of specialty, then life gets better so much quicker. And I remember walking out of a workshop and went, you know what? I don't have to know everything anymore. So I used to be big on self-education. I still am. So workshops every 3 months, read lots of books. But I walked out of a particular workshop and I went, I don't have to know everything anymore. I just have to find really good people that are better at finance, better at marketing, better at HR, better at the ops and disciplines around meetings and all that stuff. And life's going to get better for me very quickly, because it's a really uncomfortable position to be in. Having 300 or 400 staff, and you've had no evolution in your growth plan about how to look after that sort of people. So, it was a big learning curve for me and the rest of us that were the original foundation team at Greencross.
But it's also too, I think it's understanding, like you said, knowing what you don't know is the important part. There's a lot of people that have businesses that have been fairly successful, and they think they know everything. They're not willing to sort of just drop their gun and go, you know what, maybe I'm not that great at this, or maybe our success wasn't due to my brilliance in a particular area. And until they understand they don't know everything, that's when things will really improve.
I agree with you. It's I guess I have a view that a lot of small business stay small because, one, they don't have a big vision for where they want to go. There's no mentor or peer mentor going on challenging their thinking on where they could get to. The other thing that I do bump into a bit is and it really bothers me, is an arrogance creeps in business and small to medium business when they're going well, and they start thinking they know it all. Stop listening, they stop going to workshops, they stop reading, and someone comes along or something comes along that blows them up. The competition increases and the marketplace changes. Trends in society move. These things, you've got to be scanning the environment all the time, worried about what's happening next, and having good mentors and good peer mentors, people that you interact with on a regular basis, challenging your thinking, having a conversation about what's going on globally, nationally, locally. Mate, it's really important.
I totally agree. The whole having a mentor, even if they don't even know they're your mentor. Before we started recording, I was talking about Richard Branson. And what I've always looked at Richard Branson as being a mentor. Now, he doesn't know he's my mentor, but I've read most of the things he's written. I've watched a lot of his videos. I've listened to him in other interviews, and it's his vision, and even he admits himself he doesn't know everything. He brings in people to help him in certain areas. Henry Ford was exactly the same. Yep. So, and I think you read other people's story, even your own story about how you kicked off, and you didn't have everything right at the beginning, but knowing that gives everybody else confidence.
A big vision for where you want to get to, a deep passion for wanting to go on that journey. And at the end of the day, there's a whole bunch of little things that are going to happen. People are going to join your journey because you're spruiking your story, you're telling it, and people want to join that story, and people want to become part of that journey because you create it. I guess a vision and an excitement that people want to join, and that was really key to Greencross too in the early days. That just describing what we're up to, we're trying to create a better standard of veterinary practice. We want to look after our people better. We want to do high quality work, high quality medicine. Actually, we also want to create this collaborative network of vet hospitals across Australia that share ideas and support each other. So that became a simple mantra for me. And people got it. We're not taking over the world. We're simply trying to create a better industry and a better profession through a better local product, being better workplaces in our veterinary hospitals, better standards, put better equipment in, better facilities, better education platforms. Even having psychologists on tap 24 hours a day, because we are in an emotionally fatiguing industry.
Yeah, I think you would be too.
They get tired, they get cranky, and they get home and someone to pick the phone up to when they are vulnerable was important. Those sort of things you can only do once you get a bit of scale.
Someone might look at a GP and think they're dealing with sickness and death on a daily basis, but vets would deal with it far more than anybody else. And the family dog, like our dog passed away last year in April, and other than my father dying, that was the second worst death I've ever gone through in my life. But the vet had to stay there so strong when they were telling me, "I'm sorry, but we've got to put your dog down." And it ripped us apart.
Oh, mate, those conversations are deeply sensitive. And, the veterinary profession as a whole are very, very good at that sensitivity around that, because you're simply having to look you in the eye and say, look, I know how much you care for your pet. We know it's a family member. Companion animal practice is very much about respecting the fact that we're trusted guardians for the family pet, and the family pet has moved into the bedroom and into the house. So it's a family member. And knowing that's a really tough conversation to have. And often people don't want to let go. So you've got to almost be the patient advocate, the pet's advocate, to say, hey, mate, it's time. We know how much you care about it, but it's time. You've just got to accept that for the welfare of this pet, it's time. And they're really tough conversations to have, and quite emotionally draining, and as well as all the other stuff we do. But they're quite emotionally fatiguing, and it is quite a tough one. And a lot of my vets would say we get more flowers and more chocolates and more cards of thank you after euthanasia than when we actually saved the pet and it's gone on to live 7 years. But a euthanasia is a deeply emotionally sensitive time, and you respect the person, the position, and it's just an important thing we do as part of being the family vet.
So would you say, like, what shaped you now is that process you went through, listing on the stock market, a lot of the mistakes that you may have made along the way has made you a better business person? If everything had just run smoothly and there wasn't one error and it listed on the stock exchange, the share price went up by 10, all of a sudden you were a billionaire, do you think you would have learnt as much as what you learnt now?
Look, you know what I love? I love getting a problem thrown at me, because I know through the power of your brainstorming, putting a team together to try and solve a big, hairy problem.
Yeah.
It's just so exciting. I I love it. I have to admit, it's something I miss now, not being in the front line of business, but being more of a strategist. You know, the strategist comes up with the big ideas and helps massage people in the right direction. But a lot of the frontline problems you run into, you've got to try and solve them, and you've got to get the best thinking out of everyone around you to help solve that. And I used to love it with my senior management team. We'd have an issue to deal with, and we'd go into that room, 4, 6, 8 hours, and we'd work on the problem and how we were going to deal with it, and the plan we were going to put in place, and how we're going to execute it, what resources we needed, be it money or people's time, to deal with that problem. And it used to be a really, really uplifting experience, because coming off the land, when you're 10 miles from the house and you're bogged, there's only one issue. You're either going to walk or you're going to get out.
Yeah.
There's always a problem around a roadblock, up, over, through, under. And I guess you have that same view with the way you run business. There's always a way around a roadblock.
Yeah, and I must admit, as you're aware, I sold my business 2 years ago almost, and I miss it. I do honestly miss what you're talking about then, is getting with the team and you've got massive problems. Yep. Or not so much problems, but there might be something you want to make better. Hey, we're doing it this way already. Yeah. Let's make this system, we reckon it's 95%. Let's make it 97% better. And you brainstorm.
Correct.
And Sam, that worked with me, Sam Nicholson, which you may have heard the name, and her and I, prior to actually selling my business, we blocked out 2 days and we went to this room that was the whole room you could write on all the walls with whiteboard markers. And we spent 2 days in there just going through all our systems, how we were doing it, how we would change it, what we would modify. And we spent probably almost like 20 hours in that room doing that. The ideas we took away from that week, those 2 days, was amazing. And yeah, I must admit, I do actually miss that a little.
Resetting is really important in business. So where you simply take and put a team together to work on the critical issues going on in your business, to highlight your strengths, understand your weaknesses and what you want to do about it. So that reset, and look, most businesses should do it every 90 days. I'm a big fan of the Vern Harnish Rockefeller habits, 90-day resets. But if you're a fast-growing tech company, that should be every 30 days. And perhaps if you're a slow-growing dinosaur, you might do it every year, but you might find you're out of business too. So 90 days, looking at critical issues, what your strengths and weaknesses are, and by the end of the day, you're working out what your imperatives are, what your projects are going to be to take your company forward or your business forward, and you then apply the resources of the company, being your people, your time, and put some money behind it. That gets pretty powerful.
How much emphasis did you put on what your competition was doing?
Look, I have a view. You should be aware of your competition, learn what they're doing really well, learn how perhaps you can neutralise some of their competitive advantages over you. But a lot of people get really hung up on the competition rather than really worrying about their employees and their customers and making sure they're positioning themselves the best they can be so their customers are welded on. And it was funny because my days in Townsville, the opposition vets were so hung up on me. I turned up in Townsville, rebranded Greencross from the first week I was there, 2 practices. The fee schedule that I inherited from we were in the worst street in Townsville, Panari Street. It was voted the worst street in Townsville to live. So it wasn't a great practice to buy your first practice. We were 30% below everyone else's fees in Townsville, so I lifted them day one. Walked in, put them all up to what I thought was more market rate rather than being the cheapest practice in Townsville, and that was their competition. I decided I was going to be the best practice in Townsville. Just picked the worst street to do it in, but best practice in Townsville. Fees came up to something that was more market rate. But I can tell you, my competition spent years worrying about everything I was up to. And if they'd worried about engaging their own clients, deeply engaging and making sure they were welded on, I would have had far less impact. But I grew that business obnoxiously well, just, in the front line, engaging with our clients, turning up at everything that was on, be it a school fete, going down to the schools to talk to kids, turning up at the local show, all those things you do to create brand presence and community presence. So people go, who's this new young vet and this wonderful new practice, Greencross, and all his team. It was a wonderful time. It just grew market share aggressively and rapidly through, I decided to work harder, longer, smarter than all my competitors. Aware of them, but I wasn't going to worry about them deeply. I was just make sure I worked out what they were good at, see if I could neutralise it and not get hung up about them.
No, I agree with you 100%. I remember one of the ideas I actually used in my practice that for 20 years was we used to set up these marketing folders. So every year, every single thing that we did, regardless of what it was, even if it was just new stationery that was printed, anything went into this marketing folder. And over the years, you had all these marketing folders up on the shelf. And once a year, we'd sit down and review every marketing folder and go, what did we used to do that worked, what didn't, and what variations, how did we change it? But why I'm telling you this is how I came up with this idea was my opposition in Cairns, and I won't mention his name, went to the registration board and said, Tyson Franklin has been breaking all the podiatry rules, and presented them a folder of everything I had done over a 2-year period that he believes I had been breaking all the advertising rules. Now, I then got sent a copy of that folder from the registration board to me, and they said, this has been presented to us. This guy believes that you've been breaking all the rules. Can you answer this? And I went, simple. I haven't broken any rules based on this, this, and this. They agreed. But I said, but one thing I love is how he's presented all my marketing for the last 2 years in one folder. I said, this is brilliant. And from that day onwards, every year I set up a new folder, and I thank him to this day for it. So if he happens to be listening to this, thank you very much.
There you go. Mate, I had a similar experience. The number of letters backwards and forwards to the Veterinary Surgeons Board. We had archaic advertising laws. They were freeing up and changing pretty quickly as I entered ownership. And I used to walk right up to the line and wouldn't step over it, but I'd put my feet right on the line and push the limit. And,
I was the same.
Sponsor things and have my name up in lights everywhere. And that a lot of the vets weren't aware of the changes or were paranoid about it. Just how it was. But it's it's slightly naughty. But look, the thing about professions is we have to respect the professions deeply and make sure we are doing high quality professional work and high quality clinical work, be it podiatry, physio, medicine, vet. What intrigued me about the profession when I became a practice owner was that my colleagues in the profession wanted me to have a deeper, wanted me to respond to their needs more than they wanted me to respond to my clients' needs. Yeah. And my conversations, we'd turn up to a meeting and there'd be a bunch of vets sitting around there discussing the fee schedule. I go, what do we, charge market rate? The national body does a survey every year. We can see generally what the fee schedule should be because of our national surveys. So that helped us position it. But we don't have to sit here and tell each other what we're going to charge. And I had colleagues wanting me to have a deeper affinity and a deeper loyalty to them than to my own client base. Yeah. Look, my clients paying the bills. They're helping me live. You guys, I respect your professional colleagues and I want to have a relationship with you, but let's get it on the right thing. Let's discuss case studies and academic stuff that's going to help me be a better vet and not beat me up about, things that are more important to my clients than to you.
If you're going to be successful in any business, whether it's in the health industry, in business, you've got to be good at what you do. If you're not good at what you do, you can smear as much marketing as you want over it and spin it any way you want. But if you're a shit practitioner, you're a shit practitioner, and you're going to be found out. You'll then end up having a really crappy business.
And that's business, isn't it? You have to try and understand what the customer wants. Yeah. And you have to service that in a profitable way. That's business. Whatever business you're in, be it selling widgets through to or selling dog food through to doing professional work. You need to be able to do it. And it's a weird one. I'm watching the rise of online businesses where, the margins are so low, they don't make a profit. They don't make a profit. And you go, where's the business model? They're going hard to get share of market and drive revenue with no care at all about, doing that profitably, because there's a whole bunch of shareholders that continue to get tapped to carry that business forward. I'm watching Amazon, I'm watching Pet Circle in the veterinary space, in the pet industry space. Their margin is so low that they're buying market share. It's loss leading on a grand scale. So it's somewhere down the track, someone wins and someone loses, but you've got to be able to do that. You've got to run efficient businesses, but at the end of the day, if you are buying product and selling it at cost, or almost at cost, and you've still got all the operating costs of that business, it defies logic.
It does. But I also think the whole world, the whole entrepreneurial world at the moment has gone crazy with every second person you bump into is an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Very, very, very careful of all our emerging business models, and I am a champion of the entrepreneurial world and love it when people have a go.
Yeah,
they just need some good mentors and peer mentors around them, so they do it in a way that makes sense, and they don't lock themselves into a lifestyle that is not a lot of fun.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a final question for you. Actually, I got the final question that I told you I was going to ask you, and then I've got one little quick one at the end, just for a bit of fun. Okay, I asked everybody this question. It's Monday morning. You're sitting at a coffee shop enjoying yourself, having a latte, and this guy walks past and goes, "Holy crap, you're Glen Richards. You're that famous shark on the Shark Tank." And bang, without asking, pulls up a chair, sits down next to you because you're a friendly guy and you will talk to anyone. And he says, "Okay, Glen, I'm about to go into work. I'll be sitting down at my desk at 8:30. What is the number one tip you would tell me to do when I get to work today?"
Well, what most people do is open up their computer. I'm a big one. First thing, start of the week, start of the day, is to make sure you know where you're going to focus your time. So you've only got a certain amount of time, certain amount of money. You've got that resource needs to be applied to the most important project and your number one priority. So what is the one thing put your time at that's going to make a difference to your business today? And I create a list. Every single day I check my list. At the start of every week, I put my big list out, and every day I recheck that list, and I'm making sure that I put my time on the number one thing that's going to make a difference.
That is an awesome answer, and nobody has given me that answer before or in that sort of mannerism. Okay, here's my fun question. What are the rest of the sharks like? off there. What are they all like individually? I heard they've all got dog names, haven't they?
But look, mate, it's a tough one. The guys, when we're on set, it is like a game of rugby. You just accept whatever comes, however they tackle you. It's just open, go for it.
So when the cameras are rolling, it's full on. It is a battle between each other.
It's authentic because we've got an entrepreneur pitching something.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that entrepreneurs know what they're doing, and if it's a great product or service, we want to be slightly edging in front of the other guys. And they can get a bit narky, can get a bit push and shove at times. When we come off set, I think there's a little bit more diplomacy. My family gets stuck into me about this season because they're going, "You guys, you're so rude to each other." We go, "Well, not really. We don't have much time. The way they edit that might look like, there was a conversation associated with that, but you just see the rude comment that eventually came."
Yeah.
But when we go off set, we'll probably a bit more diplomacy. They're really wonderful people. They're people I have a deep respect for. They know business. They're good. We have a lot of conversations offset around business. But yeah, as you know, I'm a vet, so I classify their personalities based around dog breeds, and I think that sort of then sums them up. Steve Baxter, Rottweiler, his mouth starts talking as his brain turns on. It just sort of dribbles out his mouth. So that's the Rottweiler, just attacks. The Doberman, Alice, she's, great, but that smiling assassin, I call her, where she can come out and rip your throat out.
Yeah.
The Great Dane, Andrew Banks, he's just a great guy, statesman, diplomat, lovely fellow.
And he comes across that way too.
Yeah, he's a statesman. He's a lovely fellow. And then we've got Naomi, sharp as a tack. I call her the red setter.
Yeah.
And she can be sort of nip you on your heels pretty aggressively around marketing and a few other things. But look, we all get on well, and I do have a lot of time for all of them.
So have they given you a dog description as well, or?
None of them have, but a radio announcer from Adelaide said, "Mate, I watched the show a bit. What are you?" And I said, "I haven't come up with a breed for me." He said, "Well, I would call you the Labradoodle."
Labradoodle.
Yeah, Labradoodle, that'll work. I'm happy with that. I'm happy. That works for me. Bright, happy, got a bit of disposition about it. That works.
I would have gone more of a Jack Russell myself.
My old rowing coach called me the Jack Russell.
Yeah. I look at you more as the Jack Russell, because they're highly intelligent, tenacious, and they get on with everybody. Jack Russells love everybody, and they hate rats.
Yeah.
So I would call you the Jack Russell. So Glen, on that note, I just want to thank you for being on It's No Secret Dr. T. This has been a lot of fun. Thank you for opening up and telling me your story, especially just sharing that story from university all the way through to getting on the stock market, a few mistakes that you made, and I only just figured out too that we were at university exactly the same time and graduated in the same year in 1988.
Correct. There you go. And we're both still looking incredibly youthful.
Oh, we are looking stunning. So, so thanks again for being on the show.
Thanks, Tyson. Lovely to see you, mate. Cheers.
I think you'd have to agree that Glen Richards had a very unique story, and I love the train journey in Moscow with the Ukrainians drinking vodka, and that's how he came up with part of his original business plan. I just think that was brilliant. Now, there's three things that he mentioned that I thought were worth bringing up again. One is he didn't wait till everything was perfect before they started taking action. I think that's something you need to remember. The second thing was he had a really big vision. And he said, if you have a really big vision and a big dream, and you can translate that to the people who are working with you, they will get on board and they will come on the journey with you as well. And the third thing was when he said that every business should reset at least every 90 days. And if you're in a tech industry, something that's moving very fast, then maybe you need to do that every 30 days. And I also think his Monday morning tip was absolute gold. Really focus on that one thing that you're going to put your time and your energy into it, and just get it done before you even sit there, turn on your computer and start getting into busy work. So my guest next week is Denise Griffiths from Louisiana, USA. And she actually calls herself the nerd in stilettos, which is quite funny. We're actually talking about virtual assistants. And here's a little snippet of what's coming up next week.
You're not hiring a person. You're working with them. You're partnering with them because they are a contractor. They don't work for you. They may have multiple clients. So you need to understand that you're a very important client to them, but they're not just sitting there waiting on whatever it is that you're paying them. They are working all over the place, and they're working hard, and they're working fast, and they're working smart. And they're learning from other clients, what to do possibly for you.
I know for certain you're going to enjoy what Denise has to say about virtual assistants and also online business managers. They are completely different things, which you will find out. So I hope you enjoyed this episode today with Glen Richards. I know that I got a lot out of it. And once again, I loved hearing his story. If you ever have any questions after any of my podcasts, please just send me an email, tf@tysonfranklin.com. And before I go, I just want to mention the event that I'm having in Cairns on the 17th and 18th of August. It is the It's No Secret Small Business Conference, and the theme is communication, persuasion, and influence. And when you use those things correctly, your profits will go up and your sales will improve, no doubt. Now, I have Dave Fries, who was guest number 2 in episode 2 of It's No Secret with Dr. T, and he's from Pennsylvania. He is an expert when it comes to communication, persuasion, and influence, and he's a guy that you do not want to miss out on. For more details, go to my website, tysonfranklin.com, and just follow the events page, and you'll get all the details. I also have 7 other entrepreneurs speaking at the event. Well, actually, I'm one of them. I am going to be speaking on both days. Nikki Jerd, who has also been a guest on It's No Secret with Dr. T. Deb Johnson, once again, also a guest. I have Tara DeVersi, Carrie Brown, Jalinda Stella, who is an upcoming guest, and Letitia Moran. When you put all these minds together, it is going to be an amazing 2-day event. Do not miss out on it, and I think it's going to be a sellout. Okay, That's it from me. Look after yourself, look after your family, and I will talk to you again next week. Bye for now.